Good morning over here from Arizona. It's so good to be back with you guys. I hope you enjoyed that last episode. I think we're coming up on week 6 that I've been doing this. And let's say after we're done with the Gaza-Israel conflict and foreign affairs, I will be I'll be asking for a lot of recommendations moving forward to see if some of that content was interesting to you. There's so much more to talk about, so many different topics. But if the way I'm presenting it is not interesting to you guys and it's not keeping you watching, let me know. Let me know what I can do, what I can change. I'm not rich yet, so I don't have all the resources in the world to make crazy changes, but I can make some. So let me know. But anyhow, today is our section on secularism and atheism, but really just the thoughts of secularists and atheists about morality. Now, there are going to be a lot of people who don't like the Christian methodology, and a lot of people who don't think that the Christian traditions and the ethics within the Bible are right. There are people who are going to say God slaughtering the Canaanites shows that God is immoral or God commands immoral things. There's also places in the Bible where women are stoned for certain things, for infidelity or such, and men aren't. A lot of people have a problem with this. They think this isn't fair. This is a reflection of misogyny on God's part. There are other places in the Bible where people kind of question God's morality or intentions, such as Pharaoh, when he hardens Pharaoh's heart and Pharaoh goes out and does what a man with a hardened heart will do. But some people are going to argue that Pharaoh was going to do it anyway, then God hardened his heart. There's a whole topic on that part, actually, hardening of hearts alone. But anyhow, just something to think about. There are a lot of people out in the world who don't like the Christian thought on morality, and I gave you some examples, but those examples logically leads us to the thought that Christian morality is kind of stagnant. Christian morality doesn't really have an avenue for evolving or moving us forward and progressing us forward. It kind of keeps us stuck within this box. You can't ever reason outside of the box. So if within that box of thought, the idea is that stoning a woman for sleeping with more than one man was and is the standard that society should set, well, there would be no reasoning outside of that, because that would be the biblical command or the biblical ethic. That would be what you need to do. There wouldn't be any reason to try to reason as to why that's possibly not the best decision. But some Christians are going to come back, of course, and they're gonna speak on what Jesus is like. Now, my personal thought on the matter is the New Testament and the existence of Jesus himself really justifies what happened in the Old Testament. Now, I think it's a lot harder to get over these arguments and problems with the Old Testament ethics if you're Jewish, or if you don't believe in away with the old and in with the new insofar as the testaments come. I think if you take Jesus out of the story of the Bible, I think you lose that arc of redemption. I think you lose the new ideals about women's place in society, about Gentiles' places in society, infidels' places in society. I think you need Jesus for all that to come clear, for all that to make sense, and for the Bible to seem ethical. I must admit myself, without the New Testament, the Old Testament seems cruel and cold. The Old Testament, and it was. And for societies that didn't have Christian thought, and for societies that weren't religious, they had just as a cruel society, if not more. They were doing possibly worse things than the society that we were looking at. But of course, in the Bible, the only society in the Old Testament that we were really paying attention to, even though we read a little bit more about other societies like the Philistines or the Canaanites and the other tribes, we were really watching the land and the people of Israel as they were the chosen people. So that was the culture that we really got to know. And as amazing as that story was, when you read about the culture and historically Israel, and you compare it to today's society, you would think they're vulgar, disgusting, maybe even disturbing. Some of the thoughts they had, some of the beliefs they had. But share your thoughts on that. Let me know what you think. But however, the logical conclusion to a secularist, a lot of times, and an atheist thought, is that reasoning and logic, absence religious thought, or absence the idea of God being the arbiter of morality, is the better way to go. Now, one way that you can go about reasoning without claiming that God exists is a utilitarianist take. And this is called utilitarianism. It's a very simple concept. Most people have heard of it. It's a great way to reason, and I like it. This is the ethical doctrine that virtue is based on utility, and that conduct should be directed towards promoting the greatest happiness of the greatest number of persons. So that's the way to look at utilitarianism. Utilitarianism can be, pretty effective. This is especially in the prehistoric days, when societies weren't quite as large and we didn't have quite the resources and the tools that we do have to support a bigger population. Utilitarianism was a great take. This was going to help us insofar as our survival, as decisions that we made that benefited the whole. The whole is really what matters. If you lose the bottom 1%, 3%, 10% of your population, that's better than losing the top, 95, 90% of your population, because the goal is survival. And for survival, guess what? You need men and you need women to reproduce. That's how it used to be. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe that won't be the case in another 50 years, maybe another 100 years. But anyhow, logically speaking, you need a man and you need a woman, and you need a lot of them to reproduce and to bring forward more humans that are going to increase your rate and your chances of survival. Now, there is a part of utilitarianism where they talk about promoting the greatest happiness of the greatest number of persons, and this is super important. This is something I like about utilitarianism. I think it's important that people have some kind of sense of happiness. Not only do they survive, but they're happy about surviving. They want to survive, and they're happy about the decisions that they make or the lives that they lead. So some decisions like this can be a man murders a family of 3. And the society prehistorically tries to determine what to do with this man. What kind of punishment is really beneficial for dealing with such atrocity. And we come to this thought where, we need as many people as possible to do as many to help us gather as many resources as possible and to make us as strong of a group as possible. But yet we don't want things like this to continue to happen. So it's going to be better to put the well-being, and it's going to be better to put the happiness of the majority in front of possibly the need of another person or another set of hands. The majority is going to be able to reproduce more workers. It's going to be able to reproduce more people. But we can't just be having people taken out of society from murder when people are going to be dying at crazy rates prehistorically from things like disease and things like AIDS and stuff like that. So, however, we don't want murder going on. That's going to deplete the population even faster. That's a huge issue. I mean, imagine the maternity rates back then, or were they better? I don't know. That something to think about. But anyhow, that's one way to think about utilitarianism. Now, another way to think about morality and kind of survival and the way to go about being ethical maybe is human flourishing. We think about human flourishing. Now, what does human flourishing sound like to you? Now, the first thing that I want to say is human flourishing is indeed about humans. That means Homo sapiens. It's about humans, and it's about surviving. But I think that flourishing really encompasses your ability to be happy, your ability to have peace, joy. I think flourishing is quite a broad word that encompasses quite a bit. Now, there are a lot of secularists and atheists who say, why don't we just reason up to the point of making sure that human flourishing occurs? Now, what exactly does this mean? What does human flourishing look like? Today, in our present time, human flourishing would look like someone who makes about $75,000 a year. That's just one person. That's a single person who lives by themselves. They have an apartment that costs about $1,000 a month. Their grocery bills are about $400 a month. They have a vehicle that they were able to pay for out of pocket for about $10K or $15K that runs just fine. This person isn't single. This person is in a relationship that's blossoming. It's brand new. It's beautiful. This person is well connected with family members, and they speak frequently, and they have, a great connection and great relationship. Now, I just painted you a picture of what I think human flourishing is. I think that's the standard for human flourishing. Just a standard look at what human flourishing might be, or what it might look like. Now, you tell me what you think human flourishing might look like. It's going to be a little bit different for everyone, but part of this podcast here and part of the thoughts that we're going to be sharing with each other is going to be, how do we get to a basic standard for society? We're going to want to build something like that. We're going to want to build a basic standard of normalcy, a standard of ethics. So we can say, if you deviate from this norm by so far, you're out of bounds. Come back in. I think that's so important for society. We need to put a limit on how stupid and how freaking weird people can be. I think that's something that we need to do. I'm sorry, but there's some crazy stuff going on out here, and it's like, where does it stop? I mean, some crazy person will be like, what do you mean, where does it stop? Next, we're going to put rubber duckies for dicks. I mean, like, what? All right, but you know what? I don't want to be mean, though. I mean, some people might need rubber duckies that they can blow up if they don't have, other tools to use, okay? Fair enough. But anyways, I painted you a picture of human flourishing. And I showed you in which manner that human flourishing might be viewed within a society. Now, human flourishing is going to help us make the same decisions as utilitarianism is going to help us make. Now, for human flourishing, there's no bounds. You're not bound to make the decisions for the greatest amount of people. You're not bound by that, by human flourishing. But if the goal is to survive, and you're in a society in which you need the greatest number of people, then it's self-evident, you see, that within human flourishing is going to be the expectation that you benefit the majority. Now, there's going to be different. The fun thing about human flourishing is we don't have to say it's always going to benefit the majority. We can think outside of that box. And we can say sometimes that we want to benefit actually the minority. We want to focus on the minorities, and we want to focus on the people who have less, or maybe the lesser people, or maybe a group of people who are less in number than another large group of people. So that's one way to look at it here. Human flourishing is kind of a concept that it sounds good, right? I mean, it sounds beneficial for survival. It seems like it maximizes survival because you're not in a box for the majority. You do what's needed for society, for the kind of society that you have at the time. So back prehistorically, as we were talking about, there might have been a need to really insert a utilitarianism kind of take into your idea of human flourishing. In today's society, we have such a large population of people that we have the luxury of not always having to benefit the majority, but sometimes you can actually benefit the minority and come out better or just as fine, which I think is the thing that really separates human flourishing from a utilitarianist take. But the cool thing about human flourishing really is that it's a little bit up to interpretation. There's a lot of discretion here as far as what human flourishing might look like. So I'm just painting one picture for you. If you have another picture of what human flourishing might be, then shoot it over. I'll talk about it. Humanism. Humanism is another thought. I consider it newer simply because I am young. That's why I consider it newer. This isn't something humanism isn't a thought that I was running into when I was 12 or even 15 or really even 16. It was kind of not until 19 or maybe 20 that I ran into humanism. And the first time I heard about humanism, I kind of liked the sound of it. But I did notice that some Christian thinkers, maybe not popular ones, just my thoughts and my observations on the broad society of Christian thinkers around me, people that I've spoken to. It seems like some of them aren't in favor or don't like humanism. I'm still trying to figure out why, maybe, but I'm interested actually in this humanist perspective. So let me read you kind of just a textbook definition and then a couple more, and I'll let you decide for yourself what you think about humanism. And then maybe sometime, if you want to, we can talk further about humanism because it's a huge topic. Humanism is a philosophical and ethical stance that emphasizes the value and agency of human beings, both individually and collectively. It generally rejects supernatural or divine explanations and focuses on reason, logic, and evidence-based understanding of the world. Humanists also emphasize ethics, social responsibility, and the importance of human flourishing in this life. Number two, this is number two definition. Any system or mode of thought or action in which human interests, values, and dignity predominates. Okay, number three definition, kind of the philosophical one. A variety of ethical theory and practice that emphasizes reason, scientific inquiry, and human fulfillment in the natural world, and often rejects the importance of belief in God. So I kind of gave you a broad look at what humanism might be, but I think this is good. I think we need to give humanism room to be what we need it to be in the areas of our life that we need it to be. Humanism is a philosophical and ethical stance that emphasizes the value and agency of human beings. I mean, go back in the video, hear that all again, and get a second take on that. When you read what go ahead, read it on the screen, what I just wrote. But it's incredibly interesting, right? It seems, well, logical. It seems well within reason. Why would we not want to emphasize ethics, social responsibility, and the importance of human flourishing in this life? Why would we not want to pursue such things? These things seem self-evident and clearly needed for the survival of our species. Humanism seems like it would have been quite beneficial as well prehistorically. Although my take on it is that utilitarianism was the most beneficial prehistorically. I don't think we were at a place where we could have effectively harnessed the idea of humanism and propelled it forward in society properly. But humanism, nevertheless, I think is a beautiful stance. I don't have a lot to say on it because I think humanism is the evolution from utilitarianism to human flourishing to human well-being. So I think that's kind of the best stance actually is humanism that can encompass all of those other things that we talked about. Now, I did skip over human well-being. Human well-being is, I consider it to be just like human flourishing, pretty much. When you think of well-being, you probably think of the same things: beneficial for survival. It probably maximizes survival. This could be taking care of the environment, right? This could be healthy lifestyles such as exercise and diet routines, human well-being. It could be all different things. Most certainly what's beneficial for human well-being would be not getting blown up. It would be not getting incinerated. It would be not having a war-torn country. That would be beneficial for human well-being. What would be beneficial for human well-being is for women not to be sex objects, unless they wanted to be, of course, then fine. But women should have a choice. So these are some things I would include in possibly human well-being. Is the treatment of women, the treatment of the earth and the environment, and the treatment of your civilians or your citizens. If you're chemically attacking your civilians and your own citizens, or you're making them bed troops and all kinds of weird stuff, I don't think that's beneficial. I don't think that's beneficial for human well-being. And here's the thing: I think if you're not a society that works towards human well-being, the masses will be in an upheaval. They will protest, and they're going to eventually make sure that they find themselves in a society that will be beneficial for human well-being. Yet, I have to admit, I've seen a lot of societies lately that don't seem like they're going towards human well-being. They're just stagnant. They're not going to do anything. They don't want to sacrifice anything, and they don't know how to build societies. Middle Eastern countries and maybe African countries. I don't know. That's what I was thinking. Now, so we touched on it a little bit, but let's talk about the evolution of logic and reasoning and its ties into evolution. Okay, I'm just gonna make up a year because I'm bad with dates, man. I'm bad. Let's do it's 1200 BC. I don't know what the frick was happening in 1200 BC, but let's just say some old ass whack shit. I don't know, man. Now let's go way further back. Depending on how old you think the Earth is, let's just put ourselves in a time when Homo sapiens are a small group, and we've just kind of evolved to what we are. So these Homo sapiens are going to look a little bit different like us, a little different and apart from us, but these Homo sapiens have kind of the start of reason and the start of logic. So they start to really use tools. They start to do things for each other that benefit each other. They're starting to build systems. Maybe they're starting to build places to sleep. that can cover them, and they're building these places to sleep within small communities or small tribes. So we have the initial development of what we would call societies. And even at this point, let's say that they're not societies that just stay in one spot. They're still moving societies. So these kinds of huts that they're building are just little things that are just, something you put up quick, something just so that you have a cover over your head. Heck, call it teepee if you want, but I'm not sure in that time if they would have been quite ready to make teepees, the time that I'm kind of thinking about. Now their evolution is a progression. Evolution is a progression. Evolution consists of adaptation, mutations, and natural selection. So I don't have a say on whether it was a mutation that brought humans to have this kind of reasoning that we have, whether it was adaptation or whether it was natural selection. But I think the better explanation would be probably natural selection and adaptation. I think the likelihood that it was from a mutation is much smaller. But as you're gonna find out about me within the theory of evolution and all that stuff, I'm not really a fan of thinking that mutations, even the beneficial ones, really got us to where we are. I think they're quite uncommon, they're quite rare, and when they do occur, they're not beneficial like at all. I don't know if you ever see any mutated human, like those little homies that look like lobsters or something like that. But let's just not call that beneficial. I don't see how it's beneficial to walk around like this with your little lobster hands trying to grab stuff. I feel like, bless their hearts, bless their existence, but let's say that's not beneficial. Okay, we can at least be honest with each other, right? I mean, they're living their lives fine, but we're not going to call that beneficial or something that we want. I don't want my kid coming out with lobster hands or lobster feet. That's just the truth here. Let's be honest about that. So we are going to think that the ability to reason and the ability to have logic was something that evolved over time. So we had to get better at using logic, and we had to get better at using reason. And as we got better at utilizing logic and reason, the argument is going to be, I think, from more secularists or atheists, is that we got more moral. So this means that societies are going to fluctuate on morality, but overall, what you're going to see over long periods of time, okay, maybe in one generation you see a fluctuation in morality goes back down, but we're going to say over like 4 or 5 generations, actually, what you're going to see is a consistent overall progression of morality insofar as it benefits society. So even if you start at a dot here at 1 and you go up to 5 in one generation, another generation goes down to 3, another generation shoots up to 10, then another generation shoots down to 8, but then the final generation, the 4th or the 5th generation, is at a 20. We're going to say that overall the progression of evolution and human reasoning move to all-time high. This is what we expect as humans are adapting and humans are evolving, is that we're going to become more moral. People are going to hold in this day, then in this society, they're going to look back on prehistorical data and pictures and thoughts about what their lifestyles were like, and they're going to say that their lifestyles and their ways of living were less moral than ours. And the kind of morality we're talking about here is simply a morality that society upholds. So it's just the traditions, the values, the actions, and the ethics, really, of this current society. And each society makes up all of their own. So that's going to be the way that we think about morality as far as that goes. I can give really a robust and interesting definition of that. I will do so. I'll put that up on the screen, so take a look at that. Now, if we're going to go with the theory of evolution, and we're all going to agree that we all came from apes, or whatever you want to call them, it's it seems like it's evident, and the only explanation is that we did have to evolve logical reasoning, and we evolved consciousness. That's gonna have to be the way that we think about it. And as we became more conscious, we became more logical. And as we became more logical, we became more moral. Now, don't think of morality as something that's in and of itself in this case. In this case, morality is just a term that describes the actions, the thoughts, and the traditions of the current civilization. That's all. That's all. Do not think of morality in this case as something that's in and of itself. You're going to get stuck in a box, and you're going to have a hard time making sense of what I'm saying. As prehistorically, as these civilizations or these tribes, as they progressed and they evolved to perhaps a different level of consciousness, and they were then able to evolve a better means of logical reasoning, they came to a point where they could do things like arithmetic. They came to a point where they made systems, where they created things like politics and governments, and these things were seen to be more beneficial for their societies. So they happened to see that when a group of Homo sapiens came together, they housed together and they acted as a community, and they had certain rules of conduct and standards, that their survival chances were greater than the Homo sapiens who lived in groups of 2 or 3. So it was better to increase the groups or the population, the number of people within those groups, to benefit them and increase the survival rate. So this is why society began to progress at an exponential rate, because that became so obvious that that humans picked up on it. Well, Homo sapiens began to pick up on it so dang quick that they were able to outcompete other animals by leap years, simply because they had this consciousness. They were able to outcompete any of these other creatures. Their ability to use tools is unheard of and unlike any other animals for the most part, really. Now, you might be kind of wondering, like, why is this guy not just calling, why is he calling them Homo sapiens? Why isn't he just saying humans? Now, this is going to be something fun later, but simply because I believe that the qualifications for being human is holding consciousness and not being a Homo sapien. So there might have been other groups of creatures that held consciousness, therefore were human. You have to have the potential to hold human consciousness to be considered human. Now, it's just the potential, because of course, if you're an offspring of a Homo sapien, in your earliest stages of development, you're not going to have consciousness, but that doesn't change your DNA. That doesn't mean you're not a Homo sapien, and it doesn't change your potential to be a human. So it's the potential of holding the human consciousness that makes you human. Okay? It's not being a Homo sapien. Oh, sorry. I said that wrong again. Gosh dang it. He can be other things than Homo sapien and still be human. It's consciousness, really, that makes you human. So far, let me know what you think. Do you like this approach better than the Christian approach to ethics and morality and such? This approach seems maybe a little bit more concrete. Maybe I spoke about it more eloquently since I've obviously been practicing, and I hope you think I've gotten quite a bit better at this since my first video. So if I was to redo the Christian aspect of this, it'd probably sound better now. Probably sound a lot better. I've been trying to get all those ums and weird stuff that I was saying out of there. But that is the take on the secularist kind of atheist thought about morality, the evolution of consciousness, a little bit about things like that. Just very surface level thoughts on this. And I want to remind you guys that you guys still have homework. I hope you're getting your homework done. I just looked on this app, this anime app called Crunchyroll, and on Crunchyroll is this movie for Attack on Titans. It practically goes all the way through season 1 through season 3. It's 2 hours long. Get this show on, watch it, because we're going to be doing a whole section on this, and it's going to help you a ton. And it's a great story. So just check it out. Give it a try. For me, come on. So that's your homework as far as that goes. It's been a pleasure always, once again, and I'm always open to recommendations, guys. This is becoming a lot of fun. It's becoming easier and more natural as I'm doing it. I've enjoyed this a ton. Thank you for all the loyal people who've subscribed and who've been following and watching the videos here and there. I always appreciate it. I want you guys to have the best week ever. I want to say happy 4th of July, and I'll still be coming out with some more stuff this week, like shorts, but this is the video for this Sunday. Man, it's been a pleasure. All right, guys.